I think we're good to go. Do we want to pause recording and restart in 5 minutes? I mean, I can pause it, but we'll still be live to YouTube.
Yeah, we would like to be. But yes, thank you.
Sure, I think I can.
Oh, Min's kids are cute.
Yep.
Don't let the picture fool you. They're jerks.
How old are they now?
They are 2.5.
Oh, and identical twins, yes?
Fraternal. They
Fraternal.
started. Yeah, they started to look different over the years.
They're cute.
Yeah.
I mean, the friend of mine gave birth to fraternal twins as well in December.
Oh, okay.
And at first she had a little identifications on their wrists, like first 2 weeks at home, so she doesn't mess them up.
Yeah, we left their their ID tags from the hospital on their legs until I think it was like a good two weeks before we were
2
like,
weeks,
okay,
yeah.
this one has a weird haircut. I think I know which one this one is.
I can't imagine mistaking, like, which one's which? I can't even imagine.
We always fell back to like, well, they'll not know. So
exactly, this is true.
But what's interesting part so a mother, she already knows, right? She knows who is who, but dad, he still confirms which one is which.
I call both of them the same name until I get it right anyways. And it's just because their names are so close to each other. It's just because, well, not really. Well, one's Declan and the other one's Dempsey. So I just naturally just call out both their names now. Just, you're both in trouble. Like, I don't care. Like, you're just both in trouble.
Those are cool names.
Thank you.
I'm going to wave till someone says hi.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Hello. For those of you who are just joining us, you see a series of slides on your screen. One is renaming slide that explains how to rename yourself, so we know who's in the room. And another slide is for our Spanish-speaking participants that describe how to connect to Spanish interpretation via Zoom or by phone. And we're gonna go ahead and start in about 3 minutes. And as you're joining us, please go ahead and mute yourself so we can minimize the background noise. For those who are joining us, we're going to go ahead and start in about a minute or two. What you're seeing on your screen is the slide how to rename yourself and the slide how to connect to Spanish interpretation.
Do ice and this and that, and I haven't heard that, so I don't know what they're gonna do. But
I'm going to wait for about 2 more minutes. Meanwhile, please go ahead and rename yourself. Please indicate your affiliation if you're a committee member, if you are a committee member and you're resident, if you are joining us from CARB or Air District, or if you're a member of the public. We would like to know who is in the room. And also for our Spanish-speaking participants, there's going to be a slide that tells you how to join to Spanish channel and hear this meeting in Spanish.
Todavía no. Ay, qué bueno. Todavía no. Ay, hasta me dieron nervios cuando me vi. Estamos en la junta. Sí, pues. Bonito se le va a ver todo su esto. Qué bonito se le ve más. Sí.
Well, let's go ahead with the slow start. I see 24 folks on the line. Let's start with our instructions in Spanish, how to connect to Spanish interpretation, and then we will proceed. Mari, do you mind providing instructions in Spanish?
Hola, muy buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la reunión de Chapter. Estamos, si gustan la interpretación o esta reunión en español, simplemente tiene que buscar el logotipo de interpretación que está abajo de su pantalla y ahí va a seleccionar el idioma español y aparte de eso también va a querer oprimir el botón que dice Mute Original Audio. Eso significa silenciar audio original y así simplemente puede escuchar esta reunión en español para usted. Y luego, si por alguna razón está teniendo problemas técnicos, puede llamar al número de teléfono que está en la pantalla del 888-240-3210 y el código de acceso es el 33-73-645 y tecla o el signo de número. Sé que ahorita estamos teniendo unos problemas técnicos, pero vamos a, si pueden ingresar esa interpretación y también poder silenciar su micrófono para que no se escuche, al menos que tengan alguna pregunta en este momento. ¿Alguien tiene una pregunta o algún problema? Ok, todo parece que está bien. Hannah, go ahead and take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Mari. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Hannah. For those of you who don't know me, I am part of the facilitation team from the Institute for Local Government. And my colleague, Kim Denka, this evening, she is working with me. She's waving at you. And Kim will be helping you with any technical difficulties. If you see your name has changed, it's Kim renaming you so we can keep track of who is who in the room. And the most important, capture all the residents who are eligible for our stipend program. As always, ILG team will be facilitating this conversation. And our goal, our facilitation goal, is to offer neutral guidance and capture community voices and priorities as you continue to implement your SERP plan. And of course, our goal is always to stay on time and to go through our agenda items and achieve objectives for the meeting. Okay, so what we are doing today. Our agenda today, we're gonna start with our traditional standing updates, where we hear from CARB and Air District staff on the variety of updates as it comes to pesticide regulations, air monitoring updates, air filtration and school bus subcommittee updates, things like that. Then we're gonna open up the floor for your feedback and questions about SERP implementation measures. As you know, there are a lot of measures in your SERP, and simply it's not enough to have 2 hours to discuss a lot of measures. So the area district will go over some of the progress they've been making on some of the measures we haven't had a chance to talk about, and then we'll open the floor for questions from you. Then we're gonna briefly talk about correspondence on behalf of the AB 617 committee, something that's been raised at the last meeting, and we'll just provide an update and on this topic. And then we're gonna wrap up and we will hear from our members of the public. Speaking of members of the public, these meetings are open to the members of the public. And if you're new to our meeting, some of the Zoom controls that we're using at this steering committee meetings. Next slide. We are asking all of you to stay on mute unless you're planning to speak. If you are joining this meeting via your phone, your audio is connected via your phone. You're gonna press *6 to stay on mute. And Kim behind the scene is helping to mute or unmute people so we can minimize the background noise. If you have something to contribute, you have a question, you have a comment, please raise your blue hand. And again, if you're on the phone, if your audio is on your phone, to raise your blue hand, you're gonna press *9. Please use the chat box to share your thoughts, ask additional questions. And if you are joining us on 2 devices, you are joining us on your tablet for your video, and you're joining us on your phone for your audio, we're gonna ask you to link those 2 accounts. I'm gonna pause for just a moment, and I'm gonna ask my colleague, Kim, to see if we need to rename anyone. As I mentioned, renaming is incredibly important, especially for the residents who are eligible for the stipend program.
So we do have everyone labeled, and then I've asked Amelia and Mari just to let us know if we get any other additional Spanish speaking participants on the conference line.
Great, and I'm gonna pause for just another moment, and I'm gonna circle back to Maricela to make sure that our Spanish speaking participants are all set in case someone joined us a little later. And Kim, if you don't mind to share that Spanish interpretation slide one more time, just to make sure everyone is connected to the right audio.
Hannah, did you need me to do the thing again?
Yeah, let's do it again. It's just in case someone joined us later.
Okay. Muy buenas tardes y otra vez bienvenidos a la reunión de AB 617 para la comunidad de Shafter. En caso de que esta es tu primera oportunidad de estar aquí y necesita la interpretación en español, usted simplemente tiene que buscar el logotipo del globo abajo que dice Interpretation. Va a oprimir ese botón y luego va a seleccionar el idioma español. Y aparte de eso, también va a querer seleccionar el botón que dice Mute Original Audio, que significa silenciar audio original. Y luego, en ese momento, ya va a poder escuchar su reunión en español. En caso de que tenga algún problema técnico a través de Zoom, puede llamar simplemente a este número de teléfono que está en la pantalla, que viene siendo el 888. Espérenme un momento, se me quitó aquí la información. El número de teléfono es el 888-240-3210 y el código de acceso para ingresar a esa llamada es el 33-73-645 y el tecla o el número de signo de número. ¿Alguna persona tiene algún problema o que tiene una pregunta?
Buenas tardes.
Hola, buenas tardes, Anabel. ¿Tiene problemas técnicos o está bien todo ahorita? ¿Está todo bien?
No, solamente reportándonos.
Ok, gracias. ¿Está más alguien ahí con usted o nomás es usted sola?
Estamos aquí un grupo.
Ok. Si gusta, me pueden mandar por chat. Si son personas que tienen que agarrar el estipendio, podemos así ponerlos en la lista entonces.
Maricela, I'm actually with them right now, so I am going to give you the names in a bit in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bianca. Y gracias, Anabel. Tenga un buen día. Okay, I think we're ready to go.
Great. Thank you so much for confirming, Maricela, and thank you for your patience as we're ensuring that everyone is all set and ready to fully participate. Couple more reminders before we move on to welcome and our main agenda items. This meeting is being recorded. We're also streaming this meeting on Facebook, on Air District's Facebook and YouTube Live. For members of the public, at the end of the meeting, we're going to have a public comment, and you're welcome to submit your questions or comments on Facebook, on YouTube, if you can, or if you're here on Zoom in this meeting via chat or verbally at the end of the meeting. And as always, a reminder for the residents who are eligible for the stipend programs. To be eligible, you have to stay in this meeting for 75% of this time or even more. Okay, well, that's all for housekeeping items. Again, thank you for your patience. I'm gonna pass it next to Ryan for the welcome from the Air District, and then I'm gonna pass it to our community co-host, who Gustavo is our co-host today. Ryan.
Yes, I'll keep it short tonight. It's good to see everybody. We have a lot of good things to talk about and discuss, and excited to share some of the progress that we're making and keeping everybody updated on those efforts. And once again, seeking the guidance and the wisdom of the steering committee members, the residents, our partner agencies, in helping advance the chapter community emission reduction program. And so with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Gus for his introduction, and thanks.
Hello everyone, how's it going? Buenas tardes, feliz de las madres a todas las mamás en todo el continente de América. Happy Mother's Day to all the folks that celebrate Mother's Day on May 10th. Mi nombre es Gustavo Guida, my name is Gustavo Guida Jr. And I'm a Kern County Projects Coordinator for Central California Environmental Justice Network, a nonprofit organization here in the Central Valley, focused on rural and disadvantaged communities and working with them on capacity building and technical support. It's my pleasure to be the co-host today here for AB 617. Part of my roles here in the organization from the inception of AB 617 were and are to be in the AB 617 consultation state group, which is a collaborative of folks from up and down California, from industry to research, public health, environmental justice, and government, coming together to really provide the development of the blueprint for the Community Air Protection Program, which we're all participating in. And the appendices, right? The stuff that is important on process, on implementation, and really the envisioning of AB 617, which is a process that should be community-led, right? So thank you for the opportunity for this. As a co-host or a community lead, I really want to take this opportunity to bring, to attention some of the stuff that we consider community priorities. And in that, the different communications and requests that have happened, throughout this process, and simply the first being, in the last April meeting, a large cohort of us requested to have, a conversation on the budget, on the financing of AB 617, and we see that missing here in this agenda. And so, I really want to take this opportunity to request to the state, to the air board, and to the facilitator, right, that these conditions and requests that are coming from community are respected and are brought forth and are taken seriously, right? Because this is a serious process that we find in collaboration with the city, with the county, and with so many different interagency partnerships. And I really want to call to the attention of the state, of the regional air board, and the facilitator for really missing the ball on this. And I really want to request and make a motion for next meeting, to bring that forth, right, as a conversation, even as a starting point, right? We really need to start somewhere, right? And I'm taking this opportunity to make sure that it's ingrained that this conversation that we're having on the budget, on the resources and allocation of capital in AB 617 is really spoken, with a sense of transparency and importance, right? So thank you so much, and I really want to make this motion. If any other steering committee members, want to join me in this, and just making sure that it's, we're taking this process serious, right? And we want to make sure that there's a consensus in the people that are in the CSC, and it is not just Gus from CCJN, requesting this, right? So I want to make, the call. And if anyone else in the steering committee wants to second that, please feel free to do that now.
Hey, Gus.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
Hey, I want to make sure that you saw it. So we definitely heard you during the agenda setting meeting. And so if you, on the bottom of tonight's agenda, we have outlined for June a discussion on the budget.
Okay. No, thank you. Yeah, and I think what we wanted to see, or what some of the folks really wanted to see, was this really at the very beginning, right? To making sure that this is something that is taken very seriously, right?
Okay.
Not something that we say we're gonna look into this into the future, right? Just a real kind of honoring, right?
Yeah.
What was requested previously. So thank you for that, Ryan. And I know that it will be in a future agenda, right? But I really want to make sure that really residents and other folks are really in tune to making sure that this is something that they actually want to hear about, right? And it's not just us requesting this information.
Yeah. And part of the reason why we didn't have it for this one is so, every year we're required to produce reports for the Air Resources Board. And so we're in the process of finalizing that report. So we didn't have it ready for tonight. And so our thought would be finish up the report, then we can, have that like more explanatory conversation at the next meeting. So
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you. And thank you guys, for both the district and the state to really, coming together on this. With that said, there was in the implementation of the SERP, and I'm going to continue to talk about the SERP and the blueprint as we continue, but just because, these are very important things that we shouldn't really leave in the back burner as far as processes. When the SERP was approved, there was a 6-month check-in, right? The 12-month check-in to look at the processes, right? And I think with the chapter tracker, right, that's a great start moving forward. So we believe that chapter tracker is, a kind of step forward in that kind of 6-month and 12-month look. But if we could put together some time, some real appropriate time for that, that'd also be very great. And then really kind of focusing on, and I see it in today's agenda that, we're going to talk about the measures of the SERP and all that stuff. So, I appreciate that. With that, I'll turn it over to the Air District. But we definitely want to make sure that we're acknowledging all the hard work that everyone has been doing, all of us, everyone that is in today's call, right? And that we continue to really consider this process as a community-led process. And I'll continue to highlight communications that are coming to me. So appreciative of this time, and I'll pass it over to you all.
Great. Thank you so much, Gus. And thank you for, bringing up April conversation at the CSC and committee's desire to better understand the budget. I've heard over and over again that transparency is very important to this committee. Thank you for bringing up those check-ins, 6 and 12 month check-in. That's an excellent action items for the next meetings. Air District is preparing this information, so they're ready to share that with the committee at the next meeting. And again, thank you for keeping us on track. And for those of you who participated in the agenda setting meetings, this has been discussed in the agenda setting meetings as well. So it's on everyone's radar. And you are also invited to agenda setting meetings, so you can contribute. What else would you like to see on this agenda, either in these meetings or in the agenda setting meetings? So thank you for flagging that up. And I just wanted to flag, Gus mentioned AB 617 consultation group that is working tirelessly on updating a blueprint. If you haven't heard about this group, or you would like to learn more about their work and what they're working on, contact and chat with Gus. I'm sure he will share a lot of cool and interesting information, not only about the process, but maybe what other communities are doing as well.
Yeah, and just quickly, there is the next AB 617 consultation group meeting is already set. So this will be June 15th. This is a Tuesday. So June 15th from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. And so this is really where, like I said, the regulatory industry, the air districts across the state, the major air districts, CAPCOA, which represents all the other, smaller air districts, resident groups, environmental justice representatives, public health officials, and many more folks, really come together and there's a process in updating the people's blueprint, right? Which is a conversation continuing from the blueprint we have here. So that'll be on June 15th from 2 to 5 p.m.
Thanks, Gustavo. And I do want to acknowledge a comment from Bianca about agenda setting meeting, and Jessica posted a reply in the chat when the agenda setting meetings are taking place. And I believe, just correct me if I'm wrong, but the air district usually sends out some type of doodle poll or something.
Yes, and actually what we've been doing, you might have noticed this last time, and it's our promise moving forward. Instead of doing the agenda meetings like a week and a half ahead of time, which doesn't give us a lot of time for that back and forth that Gustavo was just outlining, we've been having them, or we just started having them the week after. So look for a doodle poll to have the agenda setting meeting next week. That gives us a lot of time to go back and forth, send you a draft agenda like we did this time as well. Get feedback before we finalize the agenda, and then get that agenda and the materials out, translated in Spanish to all the folks that need it, and in English too, for everyone that needs time to prepare and understand what we're talking about. So that is the plan moving forward. So look for an email from Zong, most likely.
Great. And just kind of to wrap up to what Gaz is saying, it's a community-led process. That's why this agenda meetings are for. The Air District would like to hear from you. What is important for you? What would you like to discuss in the next meeting or in the next several meetings? If it's not feasible to deliver this topic at this particular meeting, definitely it can be scheduled for the next meeting. But in these meetings, it creates the space to hear from you and what would you like to discuss. So these meetings are not only productive, but meaningful to you guys. Okay, let's move on to our standing updates. We're gonna hear updates on air monitoring from Chai, and then we're gonna hear from Todd about school filtration and school buses updates. I'm gonna pass it to Chai.
All right, thank you, Hannah, and good evening, everyone. Good to see you all. I hope you're doing well. So as far as air monitoring, we're pretty close to the finish line. We have only one site left, and that is the Mexican colony area. And so I know we have sent off an email, actually, I haven't sent off an email. I'm getting it mixed up with the agenda setting meeting that we've talked a little bit about it. And it's also in our weekly reports an update onto it, but I just wanted to also give a review of where we're at with that particular location. So, we had started, we had looked at a La Gardenia restaurant that was brought up early on. We've looked at that, and we've also re-looked at it again and went to that location and talked to the owner inside of it and try to gauge some interest in it. So what we found is that, first of all, we have very limited space on the outside to place the air monitoring equipment. In addition to that, another option would be to put it on the at the roof, but access to it was very limited, and we don't know what the structurally up there if it would be safe to install a unit up there and have staff going up there continually to maintain and operate the equipment. In addition to that, also talking to the owner, they did not seem, or he or she did not seem very interested in that location. So there were a lot of challenges to installing an air monitor at that location. However, as many of you recall, Sal Moretti came by and had a conversation with us. He's the director of District 4, and he had mentioned that there's a location pretty much close to the center of it and of Mexican colony. And I'm going to share my screen right here so that you all can see which one I'm referring to. Oops. So La Gardenia is located in this area right here. And what we've working with Kern County, they are building a park right in this area here. And this upper portion here is a basketball court. And then down here is a picnic area. So they're in the process of designing and building that. And talking to them, they're thinking that we could potentially put an air monitoring unit right on this corner here. And this is a really a nice area in here in that, this is where the community can go in and play and so being within this area here, it's also in the center of Mexican colony. That would be a good reflection of the air quality within the area there. So we are working with them on this, identifying these locations and the necessary infrastructure, like getting the electrical work into there and fencing and all of that. And so it looks pretty promising right now. Kern County is so far supportive of it. And we're looking at putting together an agreement to move forward with this process. But before we go too far into that, I also wanted to bring it up to the steering committee as well. That this is definitely a good potential option for us, but wanted to hear from the steering committee to see if you had any concerns with having an air monitor in this location before we move much further beyond that point. But so just many of you may already know what it looks like at La Gardenia, but just that picture here, just to get a brief idea of some of the concerns that we had. So as you see here, there's almost a bit of a parking here, but there really isn't any great location outside of it to install it. And then of course on the roof was a questionable location as well. So I'd like to just open it up here to see if there's with the steering committee, what your thoughts are for putting an air monitor in the this new location here.
So try to clarify, the original location that this committee suggested was La Gardenia restaurant, but because there's continuing challenges putting air monitoring at that location, you guys are suggesting to move it just a little bit up. And you're asking to committee what they're thinking about this potentially new location.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Any concerns with placing the air monitoring in this Kern County square? Raise your hand, let us know, or type in the chat. Gus.
Yeah, no concerns at all. Actually very excited about this. This as far as placement, like methodologically, I think it's even better to have it at the center of the community, right? And so I think very appreciated and grateful that the county would extend the invitation, knowing how important this is, so kudos to the county supervisor and the staff there for really stepping up and showing some leadership, both, with the importance of this, but also in the placement of this, right? It's right at the center of La Colonia Mexicana, something that we've been, the residents have been really outspoken about, right? Outside of the mobile air monitoring, right? Something that is more stationary. So that's great. The only question I have is, as far as like the sensory technology and what will be captured, is there something that is like a piece of technology or a monitor that is already assigned to this location? Or is that something that as a committee, we're also going to bring up as part of the discussion?
Now, that's already been assigned, right from the beginning when we did the community air monitoring plan onto this. So for this particular location, a real-time PM 2.5 monitor has been assigned to it.
So that was a process, Gus, I'm sure that you were involved with and others, and like a subcommittee and identifying the locations and the type of pollutants And so from that discussion, it was decided that a PM 2.5 monitor would be the best one to go in at that location.
Yeah, it was the sticker exercise. If you guys remember, one of those fun times we got to all be in person and collaborate.
Yeah, I miss those. Yeah, and I think appropriate PM 2.5, right? Given the location of this community. So thank you.
I don't know if.
A question.
Hi, Bianca.
I didn't get that.
Bianca, your internet is breaking up a little. We cannot hear you. If you can hear us, do you mind connecting with your phone?
I'm with the ladies right now, but is later on, I don't know if is there a possibility that we is there an ozone, or is it just, can I just type it in?
Yes, please. Bianca, we could not hear you. I'm not sure if the question is coming in the chat. Well, let's put a pin on it. Bianca had a question, and see if she can get a better connection or type her question in the chat.
Okay, and then I just have two really brief items to add on to that too. The other part is we are adding the additional pollutants. I know there was some confusion as to whether we also had other types of pollutants that we were monitoring because it wasn't showing in our charts on the web, and so we are monitoring additional pollutants. For example, like at the labor camp, there are multiple pollutants there, and at Sequoia we do have multiple pollutants being monitored as well. So we're working on trying to bring all that data into our website and to have it all displayed there. So that's still in the process, but the data is there, and once we have it connected, you'll be able to see a historical data on that as well. And in addition to that, lastly, I just wanted to bring it up to the steering committee again. The last time we had a monitoring subcommittee meeting was in late September of last year. So it's been a while, but just wanted to bring it up to the committee to see if you had any ongoing questions that you wanted to have a subcommittee meeting for us to kind of go over any details that you may be interested in.
Okay, I see yes from Gustavo to subcommittee meetings. Folks, if you would like to see another subcommittee meeting being scheduled, please type in the chat yes, or give us a visual reactions, either by giving us reactions or raising your hands. And while you're doing this, while you're letting us know if a subcommittee meeting is a good idea to have it soon, Chai, we do have a question from Bianca. She is asking, can we expand it later to the ozone monitoring? I assume, can we expand monitoring to the ozone monitoring with the equipment that you're placing at that site?
Yeah, currently we don't have any stationary ozone monitors assigned or available for that site. So I think the other part of it is if you have concern over ozone, we are doing that with the van, and that van location is just on the northwest corner of it, and we can go over the data, and you can take a look at that and see that if ozone is a concern that you would like to see a real-time continuous monitor there. I think that's something that we'll have to come back to the steering committee and have further discussion on. But
hey Chai, real quick, just like I think part of the reason why we didn't focus on an ozone monitor, and we're having this conversation with the people that participated in the subcommittee, and then later on the CSC. Ozone is regional, so I mean that it's a regional pollutant, and then typically where we expect to see higher readings of ozone would be closer to heavily trafficked roads. And so that was when we went through the exercise with the steering committee and talking with the residents of La Colonia, and the biggest concerns about air pollution seem to stem more from PM 2.5 emissions.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Ryan.
Thank you for that clarification. So I do see 3 yeses to air monitoring subcommittee meeting. Can we have a little bit more participation from the committee members if you would like to participate, or if you would like to see the air monitoring subcommittee meeting scheduled? Please type your answer in the chat, yes or no. Thank you, Bianca. I see we have 2 more yeses. Okay, any other questions for Chai before we move on to school buses and air filtration update? Do we have anyone on the Spanish line with a question?
Hey, Hannah, just to make sure that that yes was only for the subcommittee, or was that also in support of the recommended location that was presented? Was it for both, or was it separate?
So thank you for clarifying. Yes, so folks, 2 things are happening here. We're asking you to indicate the interest for scheduling another air monitoring subcommittee meeting. And we're also asking if you have any concerns for this updated location where it says Kern County Circle, Square. Can we share that screen one more time? If you have any concerns for that updated location that the district is suggesting instead of a La Gardenia restaurant, if you have any concerns, please raise your hand and let us know. Right now is a good time. Okay, I don't see anyone with the raised hands, and I do see some folks are dropping in the chat yes to both.
All right, that sounds good. And then we'll look at the timing on that, and maybe ask questions from the steering committee of what they're interested in and what they would like to see.
Great, thank you so much. Before we move on, I do want to make sure I didn't miss our Spanish-speaking participants. Can we confirm if there's any questions or comments from the Spanish line?
It does not look like we have any on the AT&T line.
Thank you. And Michelle, I do want to acknowledge your comment that the Air District, my assumption, will be sending out the doodle poll to find the best date for the subcommittee meetings. Gus, anything to add before we move on to school buses and air filtration at schools item?
No, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll keep an eye on the chat, but no, thank you very much.
Okay, great. Okay, next we have Todd with the Air District, who will share updates on school filtration and bus subcommittee.
Good evening, Todd Dean, Director of Grants and Incentives. I'm gonna hold off on the filtration update. We have a couple of folks here from Richland School District, and they're on kind of a time crunch. My apologies. We have Martin and John from Richland School District, and they were going to kind of give us a little bit of an update on where they stand in terms of potential school bus replacement projects and some of the issues and some of the challenges that they're facing. So, and I apologize. I know Martin maybe has to take off or has already taken off. I can't see, but I know John is here to provide an update. So I'll go ahead and just kick it over to you if that's okay.
Thank you, Todd. Yes, Martin took off, but we have John here.
Good evening, everybody. I'm John Yanes. I'm the Director of Planning and Facilities for Richmond School District, and Martin did have to go and get ready for the tonight's board meeting, which I'll be joining him shortly here. But just give you guys a brief update. It definitely has been exciting working with the Valley Air over the past few months, and PG&E as well too. We are making progress, getting closer to finalizing the location on our school site for a charging station where we would park our buses, not just charge, but also to store them. We posed some challenges where we currently park them at now. The bus yard where we are at right there on Pozo Street off of Shafter Avenue, directly across from Redwood. It's old, it's tired, and it's really small. And that wasn't going to be feasible for us to do that there. And then we also looked at the area across the tracks over by Giovanni's, just north of the railroad tracks. And that would be an ideal area. But as we know, the high-speed rail possibly may be coming through there. Not sure when, but in the near future. So that didn't work out well. So now we're currently looking at an area on Atlantic Avenue and Valley Street, where we currently have some solar panels that's going to serve some, it's really going to look nice once we get it dialed in, to have some shade to our buses and not take away from our students where they have the play area at. So that's worked out well. Got off the phone today with PG&E Tim, looking forward to him to possibly coming out with the next couple of weeks with some engineers, see if that area is going to be feasible for us to pull some power from their cabling system. But we're looking at currently 4, possibly 5 school buses, and it really is a process. Just the fact that there is some pitfalls with anything else is new. We've been fortunate that the Air District has pointed us in the right direction with some good folks up north and down south, where they've had some success stories with their buses. We've had 2 different companies come out and demo the buses, where we all physically jumped in the bus, went out for a drive, got to drive them, and we were quite impressed with the way they operate and the smoothness and just the look of the buses. If you've seen the bus going down the road, you see a yellow school bus coming down the road. It's anything that's not going to stand out. It's not going to bite you. Maybe sneak up on you because it's awfully quiet. But we are excited. Challenges with some buses, because we do have some routes that we do drive to Bakersfield twice a day, up to 2 buses, and obviously mileage on a bus itself is going to pose some challenges. But once again, we're not going to let that deter us from moving forward. But Martin's been working on this now, who's our chief business official back since 19. I've been with the school district now for 6 months, but definitely excited, just as he is. And we've got some of our daily drivers involved. We got our mechanic involved, our IT guys, and we also had neighboring school districts come out. We had folks out of that came out of Taft, Wasco. So they've definitely showed some interest as well too. So I think once somebody does something here in Kern County, is one of the first school districts to jump on board and get some electric vehicles, especially buses, I think folks are going to follow. So I'm excited about it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. What I think I'm hearing is definitely a process with a lot of opportunities. If something is not working out at the moment, you guys are continue working on it and identifying, connecting with other jurisdictions or other schools and identifying how can you move forward with that. This is great. Any questions?
Real quick, just like I said, it's still a process. We're still working through it, and hopefully we can continue in the right direction. But it's definitely something we want to make sure that, the money used wisely, and we're going to be able to use these buses daily. We don't want to get buses where they're going to sit, for months at a time, because for whatever reason, we definitely want to make sure we do it right. And I appreciate my administration team and the Valley Air and PG&E to partnering up with this and making it that way, and everybody be on the same page. So I'm excited.
Great. Excellent. Questions, reactions, thoughts for John or Todd? Linda is asking the question if there's any updates on the filtration, Todd.
At this point, not much, to be honest with you. We do have the program up and running, and the applications are up on the Shafter website, on the Shafter page on the district's website. The guidelines and the applications are there. We're continuing to work with the school districts to find some eligible projects, and we'll certainly have updates as necessary as we're moving forward with those projects.
Thanks, Todd.
And I wanted to thank John for coming tonight and providing that update. Just from our perspective, it's super exciting to be working with you guys. It's great to have a partner that's willing to consider such a kind of a radical change to their operations, We really appreciate it. And it's been tremendous working with you guys so far. And we certainly look forward to continuing that partnership to bring some of these buses to Shafter. So thank you very much for coming tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Nice being here.
Thank you, John. Linda, I saw your hand up. Did you have a follow-up question? No, you're good. I want to circle to our community co-host, Gustavo, to see if he would like to chime in with anything, and then to our Spanish-speaking participants.
Yeah, no, the only thing as far as, comment is we would definitely love to see the school buses. So anytime those are available for touring or for visuals, I think it would be a very positive, for the steering committee members that have dedicated, a year plus in this commitment to better their community. So I think, an opportunity to check those out whenever this is completed, I think would be just a good practice, to be inclusive and to really honor the membership of everyone.
Great, thank you, Gustavo. This is an excellent action item. What we're talking about in this meeting after meeting, it would be nice to see what is happening on the ground when it's completed and what is the results of this results of these discussions. Anyone on the Spanish line from our questions, thoughts for John or Todd?
It doesn't look like we have any at this time.
Okay, well, we will keep moving along. Again, thank you, John, for joining and providing this update about ongoing opportunities and exploring different options. Okay, next on our standing updates, we have updates from Department of Pesticide Regulation, and we have Min Pham on the phone.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Just a couple of just things. So from our department, there's some rumblings that some sort of workshop or public listening session is going to be scheduled, or potentially could be scheduled in the summertime. This is going to be right before our notice phase for rulemaking. So I think it's an opportunity for us as a department to hear from the public and from stakeholders on potential things that may affect or could potentially affect how we move forward with our next steps when it comes to rulemaking on notification. And depending on the input, it could actually affect the notification. I'm sorry, the formal rulemaking of itself. So there will be more details on that to come. I think potentially they'll give you more at the next. Either myself or Nan will provide some update on the next meeting, and we'll have clear picture on how that is. It's, from what, like I said, it's kind of a rumbling I'm hearing. So we're still in the planning phases of all that. The other thing I wanted to touch on that probably will hit closer to this community is my team will be out there in the coming weeks. We have identified another field study, so we'll be out there for a good 2-week stretch. So if you see a bunch of us driving aimlessly 24 hours a day, we will be doing a field study out in that region, and that includes us taking samples around the clock. So I think it's every 6-hour increments we're out there taking samples. So wish us luck. Hopefully this is all part of the pilot projects that are happening throughout the state. So hopefully we're able to use this in a couple of things we're doing moving forward. But that's really all I wanted to touch on. So I can field any questions if you guys have any. Hopefully I have an answer, but.
Great, thank you, Min. I do see 2 hands. I see a hand from Bianca, and I see a hand from Gustavo, and a hand from Michelle. And Ryan, your hand went down. Just want to make sure that was okay. So Bianca, please go ahead.
Hi, I have a question. I was wondering, I remember back in November, there was some testing done here in the Shafter area. And I was wondering, are they gonna give out the results? I remember, was it Nan told us that he was gonna give us back the results in June. So I was wondering if the results are ready, for residents to know what happened in that study?
So Bianca, I think I caught bits and pieces of that, but you're talking about the field study that we had conducted earlier. I mean, at the end of last year. Currently, we just received most of the data back from our laboratory, and we're doing final QA/QC for that right now. So I'm hoping that we can get something in the near future, but this is also part of a greater pilot program. I'm hoping to get you guys an isolated, either a small fact sheet of some sort, or possibly a smaller presentation specific to your region, and give you some of those numbers. So we're working on that. The data has come back to us. We're actually doing some final analysis on that. So soon is what I can tell you.
Can you give me an exact time frame? Because NAN gave us May, June. So you're talking to a couple more months, or what's the time frame?
So we're kind of at the mercy of the lab, because as I spoke about before, the analytical portion of this is complicated and it takes a little bit of time. So we're getting the rest of that data set in now. So we have to go through the QA/QC process. And typically, once we get the full data in on any other study, we normally spend about 2 months of just straight analyzing the data. So I'm hoping to get it to you by the end of the summer is what I've been shooting for. But I'll have to go back to our team, because if we can't get all the data in hand and in-house, I can't give you the full data set, because then it'll just be, there won't be a point to having partial data.
So Min, to clarify on the timeline, you're mentioning the end of the summer, it's analysis of the full data set, or what you mentioned, some isolated fact sheets just for this specific region?
So I'm thinking that the fact sheets will come out sooner. So I'm thinking if I can get that data set in sooner, I should be able to kick out some sort of fact sheet within the next month or two. So that's what I'm aiming for. For the full report, it may take a little bit longer, but I think at the bare minimum, I'd like to get this community some sort of focused, information that's relevant to that study in this area. So, okay. And we appreciate your patience. We know that whenever we're dealing with analytical laboratory stuff, it's kind of hit or miss, and the time frame is all over the place. But we do appreciate your patience on this, and we do apologize.
Thank you, Gustavo.
Yeah, thank you so much for that overview, and excited to see some of the sampling here moving forward. As far as the sampling, what will be captured, I know there was, and I don't recall the exact specificity, but there was going to be some kind of changes in the amount of restricted use pesticides that will be sampled. Do you guys have the list of what you guys will be sampling by any chance, man?
So the field study that we're going to be doing is strictly for 1,3-D, and we're focusing on a combination of 3 emissions reduction techniques to their application method that they'll be doing in the region. So I can tell you briefly that it has to do with we're going to increase the soil moisture. We're going to actually inject deeper, and we're going to look to see the effects of adding a secondary compaction roller to that. So what we're hoping is using a combination of this method, or one of these, it'll greatly increase the emissions reductions, which is what we're all been targeting in these conversations.
Okay, and then I'm assuming that we have already preliminary data or pre-existing data on the conventional way 1,3-D is injected already as a fumigant. And so this new data that will be captured on 1,3-D will be using one of these 3 or all of the above, something like that. And then kind of capturing, post these 3 methodologies, the difference?
Yeah, so we have a handful of studies for 1,3-D, whether it be actual monitoring data that we've done throughout the state, or some preliminary modeling data that we've kind of been able to use characteristics from various previous work to build out. The hope is to compare what we have, what we're going to look at in this setting from this whole year. Specific with this one would be the combination of those 3 methods that I had mentioned. the hope is to take a look at that and compare it to a traditional method that's currently being used in the region. So we'll take a look at and compare it to stuff like the general, the general injections that's being done, or the general tarping that's being done on the coastline. So anything that's, we'll usually compare all of our emissions to what we have based on the what is allowed on the label. So we'll have a clear picture of how these emissions reduction type of applications will assist us in the grand scheme of things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much. And then the other part of the question was like with a deeper injection, has there been any feasibility studies or any literature on like the potential for groundwater contamination? Is that like a consideration as well?
Oh yeah, we take a look at that as well. I don't know if you guys know this, but I've also been elevated in my position. So now I'm actually the branch chief over surface water, groundwater, and air.
Oh.
So so you get a threefer with me. So we will actually be looking at, we have in the past taken a look to see effects on groundwater and surface water. But since this is a fumigant, we know that it volatilizes almost immediately upon injection. So we don't anticipate that there will be any contaminations. But we'll follow up. Our team are always doing continuous evaluation. So with that, we will always keep an eye out, because whenever we're introducing anything new, we all know that there could be potential unknowns that we just don't capture in our initial game planning. So my hope is to we'll get all that together for you, but I don't think it's going to have any effect on groundwater based on what I've seen in the past.
Thank you for that clarification. That's great. Knowing that it does VOC, right? That's one of the concerns why pesticides were part of this conversation. I'm so sorry, Michelle. This will be my last question. And are these strategies part something that was pre-existing pre-AB 617, or was this directly associated because of the discussions that we had as a steering committee in 617?
I'm sorry, what specifically are you referring to, Gus?
The monitoring for these three measures in the 1,3D application. Is this something that is specific to AB 617, or is part of a larger continuum that DPR is doing statewide?
So it's both. So we constantly, like I said, we're charged by law to continue to do continuous evaluation. So we're always looking to see if the mitigation stuff that we have in place are working. I think some of the emissions reductions techniques that we're imposing or we're looking at in this region have come from suggestions from AB 617 steering communities. And with us looking at specifically with Shafter, what's being used, what could be helpful in this region. So I want to say that it's a combination of both these things. I mean, we've worked on 1,3D for years. So with this, we've had new techniques like the compaction, for example, was something that was brought in by our collaboration with the applicators and the community and the growers to see what is feasible within this region.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gus, and thank you, Min, for answering all these questions. I'm learning a lot about sampling. Michelle, thank you for your patience.
Thank you. So I was going to ask, you answered some of the questions. The field study is a field sampling, but it's not, you say you're going to be driving around, but you're really concentrating on 3.1D applications that are going to be happening. That's what your focus in this field study is. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I apologize if I wasn't clear. So we will actually be setting up 16 samplers around a treated field. So we'll be there from the day before any pesticide is being placed into the ground till day 10 or day 11 at the end of that. So within that region, we're doing air sampling, like I had mentioned. We're also doing soil sampling, and we're also taking a look at moisture characteristic, and we're going to put a full weather station out there. So we're gonna run a full gamut out on that field. When I mentioned that we're going back and forth, I just mentioned that because our staff normally commutes back and forth. There isn't enough hotels around, so we're scattered throughout the area. So you'll see us driving in from Bakersfield or from nearby communities as well. So it's just odd hours of the day. You'll see some tired DPR staff driving up and down into empty fields. So, but yes, the the concentration is for a specific field.
Michelle, did we answer your question?
I think I just saw it in the chat. So
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I just was looking for clarification. I didn't really know what field study meant first, but then he went into that deeper, so I appreciate it. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Great. So Bianca, I do see your hand. I want to do a time check. It's 6 p.m. and we are scheduled to move to the next agenda item. So I propose to do the following. Let's hear from our Spanish-speaking participants if they have any other questions for me, and then I'll have Bianca and Gus kind of ask the questions and help me to close up this item. Anyone on the Spanish-speaking line?
It does not look like we have any at this time.
Great. And if you guys do have more questions for me, go ahead and drop it in the chat box. He's still at this meeting and he will answer your questions in the chat. Bianca, we're going to go to you.
Okay, I just have a quick question. How many pounds are you going to be applying for the field study? Is it going to be the equivalent what a grower here is applying, or is it less?
As far as our 130 pilot project, we've been working with probably half a dozen counties throughout the state to kind of gauge people's eligibility. So we've currently worked up north here, and then so that's, what is that, Merced and Fresno County for a couple, and we've been concentrated in the Shafter area. And as far as the application, from my understanding, it is a full application. So it is going to be the exact amount and the exact process of which a farmer in your area will be using the pesticide.
Great.
And would the study include the amount of poundage when the results come in? Will we see the amount of applications that is done in every single site?
Yeah, so you'll see, so we'll have that full detail. So you'll see what the application, what we refer to as an application rate. You'll see that, and you'll see the total usage. You'll see all of our analytical readings from the soil. So you'll have that, and you'll have both raw and trended analysis for the air sampler. But we, from everything that I understand, all of our applications, we have been going at the full label rate, and that is just for good. I mean, that's just our general practice. We don't try to limit the application being put into the ground.
Great, thank you, Min. Gus, anything else to add before help me to close out this item?
Not from my end, no.
Okay. Okay, we have two more updates. We have an update from local agencies, and I was told Todd give us a brief update working with the city, and then we'll hear from CARP, and then we're gonna move on to the SERP tracker agenda item. Todd?
My apologies, I cut out there for a second.
It's okay. I was told you're gonna provide a brief update on working with the city of Shafter from.
Oh, we have been working with the city on identifying several potential projects for one of the SERP measures in terms of road improvements. They provided us with several options in terms of potential projects that we could do. We're looking into the feasibility and to make sure that they're in line with the spirit of that particular SERP measure. These are road and sidewalk improvements. We have one potential project that was a roundabout just south, a little bit south of the city, and then a couple of other sidewalk improvement projects. So we have been working with the city on that. They gave us some great information, and we're continuing to kind of analyze that in terms of what our project plan would then look like moving forward. So that's about all the update I had in that one.
Great, thank you so much. Quick questions, one or two verbal questions for Todd, and the rest you can drop in the chat box. Linda.
I was just curious, are we allowed to know where the sidewalk projects might go, or is that still just with the city?
I think that would be a question for the city if they wanted to make that information public at this point.
This is Mike James, Public Works Director for the city. I think the areas we're targeting, the most notable ones would include North Chapter, specifically Highway 43, linking the communities of North Chapter and North Park with the established businesses and schools of the core city. I think, and then I think the interactive mapping tool provided by the district, we've made several suggestions on where a sidewalk and pedestrian and bike lanes could benefit residents of all ages. And Tulare Avenue is one, both sides of Highway 43. We see a lot of a substantial amount of foot traffic in and around the high school, as well as west of Highway 43. And I'd like to also point out that in addition to sidewalk and pedestrian bike lane type of projects, we have secured funding for both charging stations, as well as there's a transit parking lot at Stringham Park, located at the corner of James and Laredo Highway, that is also an option. We're not limiting the projects to traditional road sidewalk projects, things of that nature. We are actively pursuing a transit parking lot at Stringham Park, and we have a substantial amount of parking to facilitate vehicle charging as well, immediately next to the city corporation yard off the East Ash Avenue. And I think the district has pretty good documentation and estimates for those projects. And just for the benefit of the group, we have, a wide array of projects to consider.
Okay. Any questions for Todd or Mike from the Spanish line?
Well, it doesn't look like we have any at this time.
Okay, and Jessica is dropping in the chat the link to the map and the list of projects on the map that this committee identified that's the city is working with. Okay, we're gonna keep moving. We're at 6:07. We have one more quick update from CARB before we go into the main agenda item, talking about the SERP tracker and other SERP initiatives and strategies. Do we have Scott from CARB?
Hi, good evening. Yes, Scott Wall with the California Resources Board. We actually don't have any updates today. Just did want to point out that I did drop into the chat a budget document that we released in response to kind of Gus's earlier comment. We did release a CARB budget related to AB 617 maybe a month or so ago, and so that's in chat, but I really have no other updates at this point.
Great, thank you. And you have to scroll all the way to the top of the chat to see that link, because Scott dropped it kind of at the beginning of the meeting. I did see a hand from Annabelle, and I'm not sure if it's just was a question or a comment, because now the hand is gone. Just wanted to double check with Annabelle.
Disculpa, es que iba a ponerlo antes de que empezara el otro punto a seguir. Nada más quería preguntar, en la 43 sería que la van a hacer como un bulevar, porque al lado de la 43 están las vías del tren y va a haber puentes para que pase el tren rápido, que está también en proceso, que viene ya en Huasco la construcción. ¿Cómo sería la noción de tráfico ahí? Porque pues es muy concurrida la 43 y ya con el nuevo tren y los dos otros tres que pasan, ¿sería dificultoso para cruzar o cómo estarían pensando? Si podría decir una explicación o no.
I have a question in regards, before we move forward to the next point, I wanted to talk about 43. You talked about 43, so is it your plan to build that boulevard? Because we do have the train tracks there, and so how would that work? I would like to know, because we do have the high-speed rail is in process right now, and it's now there. It's at Wasco, so it will be kind of difficult. I wanted to know what is the plan with that?
I'll speak for the city of Shafter. You know, there's a lot of things that the city does not have control over with respect to obviously Highway 43 and high-speed rail. I think what we're proposing for consideration with this committee and with the AB 617 funding that might be available is fairly straightforward sidewalk links, bicycle lane links on either side of the railroad tracks. I think given the timing, the limited timing we have with AB 617 and the limited control that we have, which is virtually none with respect to where the high-speed rail is going to go and what happens to Highway 43 specifically. You know, Caltrans controls Highway 43, and to this point, they have only given the city the go-ahead to pursue sidewalk, bike lanes, things like that along the west side of Highway 43. Anything that involves overpasses, traffic signals, things like that, is Caltrans is not supportive of at this point. And not only that, but it'll take a substantial amount of time to study those options and possibilities. And I don't know that we could address that in the near term.
Thank you for clarifying, Michael. So what I hear, there's a jurisdictional issue with Annabelle, did we answer your question?
Tengo media confusa porque la 43 para tener lugar de ciclistas se me hace muy, ¿cómo se dice? Peligroso porque te imaginas si es como un bulevar, por ahí pasan todos los carros y al lado van a ir bicicletas. Si así hay choques, imagínate con bicicletas al lado, yo creo que es una opción muy peligrosa, a mi ver, no sé.
Okay, so I am a little confused because if we did a boulevard, then it is, if we think about the bike lane, it is already a dangerous spot, and we already have accidents there. So I am personally, I believe that it will be dangerous.
Okay, I appreciate the feedback, and we have had communication with the North Shafter residents, and some of which I think have attended these meetings. And of concern to them is the lack of pavement, shoulder improvements, and drainage along Highway 43. And I believe there's already a school bus stop in that vicinity that currently lacks pavement. So if bike lanes and sidewalks were to be added, we would, ideally add some distance between the edge of pavement as well, and from where the new facilities would go. But I understand that there's some level of risk when it comes to installing any kind of improvements like this. You have to, hopefully we can try to address the speed of the traffic entering in Shafter as well at the same time. But that is a jurisdictional matter that Caltrans has control over at this point.
Thank you, Michael, for your answers. And Annabelle, thank you for your questions. And yes, I hear that safety is a concern for you. So thank you for flagging that for the city of Shafter. Okay, we are at 6:13. Let's keep moving along the agenda. Thank you so much to Min, Michael, John, Air District staff for all these updates. If you have any follow-up questions regarding any standing updates, please use the chat box because these folks are still staying on the line and they can answer your follow-up questions. Okay, so next on the agenda, we have we kind of gonna have explore one more time this open floor format. And what we mean by open floor, just for the Air District, she is gonna open up the SERP, the tracker, one more time. She's gonna give you some brief updates on some of the items that this committee does not necessarily discuss in this steering committee meetings, and some of the progress that the Air District is making. And then we're gonna just open up floor for any of the additional questions that you have about the measures that Jessica discussed, or any additional measures, because again, your SERP is very rich and there's a lot of work going on. And just a quick reminder, our Spanish speaking folks, you should have received a paper version of the SERP tracker. So if you can grab that paper version and follow along, that would be great.
Yes, thank you, Hannah. All right. Well, thank you. And thank you, Mike, for attending, and everyone else for all of your great updates. We appreciate the opportunity to have these meetings every other meeting, so long as we have room for it, to really give a lot of space for discussion. I think you guys have given us a lot of great feedback that the agendas were getting really packed. So we didn't have a lot of time for these great sort of question and answer formats. A lot of the great topics that have even already been brought up, we were used to squeeze into these tiny little time frames. So we're hoping that this sort of format works for you all. So definitely let us know. And as was mentioned earlier, we sent out the draft agenda to everyone, hoping to get feedback. So, you know, and sort of as we continue to improve our agenda setting and continue to improve these sorts of meetings, let us know if there's something that you want on the agenda, and we can definitely work to at least put it, if not on the upcoming agenda, because we want to give space, definitely put it in that tracker at the bottom of the agenda for upcoming items. We want to make sure we keep tracking those. So I'm on the Shafter AB 617 site, and I'm just clicking on the English version, but there's also a Spanish version. And as you all know, we update this every single month. And so I'm just going to scroll through and highlight a couple of things, but really this is the time for you all. And I'll maybe if someone from the Air District can drop the link to these trackers in the chat, so folks can sort of scroll along at their own leisure as well. I'll highlight a few, and then really the rest of the time is for you all to ask questions, to give us feedback. The staff might have some questions for you all depending on the measure, and we'll go from there until our time up here is up on the agenda. So just as you guys noticed, we finally, this to-date funding units has been filled out. So as you guys all know from seeing this tracker the past several months, this column all the way down is the committed funding. So it's the amount of funding that is in the SERP that is committed or allocated to the measure that we're talking about. And then to date, that's how much money is being spent. So this is to answer Gustavo's really great sort of intro that he gave at the beginning of the meeting. The committee is interested, you know, not just in how things are going, but how is the money being spent? And that's what we have here for you. So you can see some of the higher priority items like getting low dust nut harvesters, alternatives to agricultural burning. We have started to spend money here, and you can actually see these are the emissions reductions that we get with that money that's being spent. So 3 harvesters has got us already, or will in total get us 30 tons of PM 2.5 emissions reductions and almost 15 tons of NOx. So as you scroll down through and get a chance to click on the link and scroll through yourself if you haven't already, you can see we've also committed already, we've already replaced 1 engine out of the 10 we committed to with electric motors for agricultural pumps. We've replaced 61 out of the 100 tractors that have been committed to. And you can just see, as you scroll down, all of the great work, really as a result, of course, you know, the district, we're doing hard work, but it's really also too as a result of the community's hard work, getting the word out there about the incentives that are available, about the programs that we're doing. As you saw on the agenda, some of these enforcement measures we will talk about in detail in the June meeting. So we will actually get a really detailed update on all of the different measures that are cited here for enforcement. I'm going to highlight a couple more things. One, that we can certainly continue to use your feedback on and maybe get some good ideas kind of going with this group, is that we did, as you know, from a couple of meetings ago, open our residential lawn and garden equipment replacement program. We've replaced 2 units, which is really exciting that we've got some, but we've budgeted for 280. So that might be someplace, if you guys have ideas on how we can better reach out to folks, or maybe you just know even yourself, I've been meaning to do that, but I haven't gotten a chance. Let us know right now. As when I'm done with this, we'll definitely open the floor up. But I'd say that I'd flag that as one that we definitely want to see how else we can improve participation in that program. Anytime, especially if it's residential incentives. So that's those were kind of the highlights that I wanted to point out to you. One of the other main things that might not be noted here, because I think it happened maybe after we submitted it here, but we did actually submit a program plan to CARB. Oh, yep, it says it right here. We submitted a program plan to CARB to replace residential wood burning devices. And so that's a super recent update. You all saw that we sent out an English and Spanish version. So that's another just great update and great sort of progress we've made on some of these measures. So I'm going to stop. We have folks here from the district that can help answer any questions you have, or certainly just take notes on some of the feedback you might have on some of these measures. And so I'll turn it back over to Hannah to facilitate that discussion.
Great. Okay, so again, this is open floor. You are welcome to ask the Air District questions about the measures and or measure implementation. And while you're thinking about the questions, the first question that Air District is asking you, they still need to replace 278 lawn and gardening equipment units. So any ideas on outreach? How can we increase participation of residents in replacing this equipment are welcome.
While you're thinking, one more thing I just wanted to highlight, we are, in terms of things that we have yet to submit to CARB, but we're working on, we got a lot of great feedback on all of those passenger vehicle measures from the last time. So that's definitely something that's in the works right now, and we will continue to keep you updated on.
Michelle, I see your hand.
I think with the lawnmower stuff, I see it on the website, you know, for the city of Shafter, and I don't know about their Instagram account, but it's kind of deep inside of it. Maybe if they could do only one that people don't tend to even read a whole email to read the bottom, they just read the top. Or if you could maybe focus just on an Instagram with just that in it. Maybe the city of Shafter could share it. And I don't know, maybe there's the rec department, maybe they could post it. There's some other people follow a lot of different places that maybe there's some overage they could get somewhere. And maybe even with our partners at Richland School District, maybe they could send something out, you know, only about the lawnmower stuff, because otherwise it just gets lost with everything else.
Thank you, Michelle. That's excellent suggestion. Make it more visible on the website and just send out email about the lawn mowers and connecting with partners such as Richland School District. Any other suggestions on the lawn and gardening equipment, or any other questions for the Air District about any of the SERP measures?
I don't know how to raise my hand. I'm sorry. This is Linda Urata. We've done quite a bit of outreach on lawnmowers, and what we find is, first of all, it's when we're back and be able to have community events, it's really great to be able to bring out a lawnmower to show people how it works. And then the other part of that is having a partner that's nearby that sells the electric lawnmowers so that they know exactly where to take their voucher, how to get there, and have somebody, you know, really help walk them through that process. being passive, I think on the website, it's a great place to have it, but I think you really need active outreach so people kind of get the feel of it. It's like test driving a car. They don't want to buy it or trade it in if they don't know it's going to work. So I think that the hands-on demonstrations are really important for community members, even for schools and other people who might be buying them for businesses or gardening. Gardeners might want to get them. I think having hands-on is really the way to go, and telling them where they can get the new lawnmower. Thank you.
Great. Another excellent suggestion. Test drive the the lawn equipment, whatever that means. But definitely demonstrations connecting to the sellers. Excellent points. Thank you, Linda. Any other questions, suggestions? Anything from the Spanish-speaking participants? Any questions for Air District on any on the SERP measures?
It does not look like we have any at this moment.
Want to make sure I circle back to our community co-host, Gustava. Gustava, anything from you? Any questions, any thoughts, reactions?
No, thank you so much. The only thing I just want to thank you everyone for all the overview and the time put into this. I just want to circle back to the very beginning, to the notion of continuing the conversation for next agenda for kind of like the budget and the financing, and then not only for CARP to like drop the link, but also give us like, you know, a couple of, you know, highlights and points that are relevant to chapter, right? Or the entire 617 process. So again, just want to make sure if anyone has, you know, anything to add on that, please do so. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Gustava. And again, I hear you loud and clear, and it's on the agenda. It will be discussed at the next meeting, and I know Air District is preparing this type of presentations and numbers and information that this committee requested. Well, I see no other hand, no other questions about the SERP measures or a tracker. I guess with that, we're gonna move to the next agenda item. Okay. Our next agenda item is correspondence on behalf of the AB 617 committee. This is something that you folks brought up at the last meeting and emphasized that any letters that is going out and signed as AB 617 committee, you would like to learn about these letters before they send out. And what we've heard from this committee, again, transparency is important. Just like Gus said, transparency in budget. What I hear from other folks, transparency in communication. This is something that you guys value. So we would like to kind of continue and maybe wrap up this conversation and follow up on the conversation that was started at the last meeting, how it can look like, how can the transparency and communication can look like moving forward for this committee and its members. And I'm gonna kick it to Ryan, who will talk about this agenda item.
Yeah, thanks for the intro and the background, Hannah, and I appreciate that. So just to let everybody know, there have been a few letters that were sent out, and the header of the letters stated from the AB 617 chapter steering committee, and then there were certain members that had signed on to the letters, and then in the body, if you were to read it, it appeared that, or it could be read as that it was coming from all the members of the steering committee. And the concern that was raised wasn't so much that that the letter went out or the content of the letter. It was just more about, you know, process, and process is important. Everybody spends, you know, an incredible amount of time and we've been together, going on 2 years, working on this process. And so when there was correspondence that was going out, and individuals that weren't included on that letter, and they heard about it later, that there were some general concerns that a letter went out that them serving it on the steering committee was also representative of them. And so just really wanted to reemphasize that if there are letters that are going to be going out from the steering committee, that the avenue for that would be to bring those to the entirety of the steering committee to talk about what those letters may be. Alternatively, if letters are going to get sent out from some of the members, that's okay too. The only request would be that the letters themselves read that such that it's apparent if you're reading it that it's not necessarily from the entirety of the committee. Even though in those situations, though, I mean, to the maximum extent possible, looking to send letters from the steering committee would be to bring them to these meetings and to discuss them. So just wanted to raise that concern that was raised and have that discussion with all of you tonight. And I see Bianca has her hand raised.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Ryan. So to honor the spirit of inclusion, to honor the spirit and values of transparency, what Ryan is suggesting for the process, if the letter is going out on behalf of the entire committee, bring the letter to the committee and show the letter to the committee and let the rest of the steering committee learn about what's in the letter, what's the content. Of course, individuals' letters will be going out as well. In this case, the letters are signed by a person, a member of the committee, and not by the entire committee. That's what I'm hearing for the process suggestion, to honor the spirit of inclusion and transparency. Bianca, you have your hand up.
Yes, I wanted to address this because I know a lot of the letters that are sent out have been from residents, the majority of the residents. I'm not saying that it's most of the residents, but it's the majority. And for the steering committee to address themselves as a steering committee is important because it's the work and the effort that they've done for over the past 2 years at the moment. And they address themselves as a steering committee for the same reason. My question is, when letters are sent out is because some immediate action needs to be done. We've had issues even with our ag commissioner in certain areas, and we have to address them immediately, or the community wants to address it immediately. And that's why letters are sent out. So we can't wait until the next steering committee meeting. It's from a month away. So in those circumstances, how would you like for the steering committee to address it?
Yeah, that's a good point, Bianca. And like I said, we understand that. I think that just making it clear, I mean, I think some subtle changes that may be able to be made to letters like that would be, members of the AB 617 steering committee versus, just AB 617 Chapter steering committee, indicating that it's members of the steering committee. And I think that gives the weight that you're talking about and the credit to those people that have participated in this process, but not reflective or could be interpreted as the entirety of the steering committee.
Okay, and another thing that I wanted to bring up is it's usually for those letters, as there are public letters, but what they normally have at the end of the letter is every member that from the steering committee that signed it. So it's not pinning all the steering committee. It's pinning the people that signed it, that got the approval. So that's why.
Yeah, and I understand that part too, Bianca. I think just if you're kind of looking at it from the outside looking in though, not everybody knows who all the steering committee members are. And so, making some subtle changes to the terminology while I think would still get the message across, would make it clear that it's not from the entirety of the steering committee. And I think that was the point that was raised to us.
Okay.
Thanks, Bianca.
So just to summarize what I'm hearing here, letters will be going out. You guys are very active, very involved committee. So when the letter is going out, there's a different semantical differences between on behalf of the entire committee or on behalf of the committee members. So committee members are those folks, Bianca, like you said, the list of residents, people who sign in this letter, this list is usually listed. And that list of folks are not necessarily the entire committee. So when Ryan said, if the letter is going out on behalf of the entire committee, meaning every single person, in the spirit of transparency and inclusion, the entire committee needs to know about this letter. And if the letter is going out on behalf of residents and members of CEC, there's 10 members, just to make that clarification. And in the body of the letter, make sure that there's no confusion. Did I capture that right, Ryan? Did I capture that correctly?
Yes, you did. Thanks, Hannah.
Okay. I do see a hand from Glenn, and I just...
Sure. So just to kind of tail off on what you just said, just to clarify, if there's a letter that goes out on behalf of the committee, should or should not it be put up for a vote of the committee instead of, because I think what you're implying is that the committee should just be aware of it, but I would be under the impression that it should come up for a vote of the committee. And if it's a majority of the committee, then they agree to send out that correspondence.
Yeah, you're correct, Glenn. I mean, the process is important. And so if there's a letter that is being requested to be sent out on behalf of the entirety of the steering committee, that we would follow a process to do that. It wouldn't just be bringing it, informing. It would be a discussion with the entirety of the steering committee.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and this is the consensus building committee. So when we say bring the letter to the entire committee, we're gonna understand what the concerns around the letter, and if there's a consensus to have this letter as a letter from on behalf of the entire committee. Annabelle, I see a hand up.
Sí, solamente para aclarar lo que se está hablando ahorita. Nosotros no damos consentimiento con nuestros nombres a ninguna carta que no estemos de acuerdo. Y si no está la mayoría en ocasiones es porque no todos estamos al mismo tiempo en las juntas. Muchos trabajan de noche, otros no están en la junta. Entonces, si hay mayoría, se acepta la mayoría, porque todos estamos de acuerdo en lo que se está hablando. Ahora, como dice Bianca, son puntos que en ocasiones son emergentes. No se puede esperar a que todos estemos juntos, porque eso nunca se va a poder. Pero de que todos tenemos noción de lo que se está mandando, nunca mandan nada sin que se nos explique antes. Y yo estoy en favor de que se nos escuche con carta cuando se manda, porque no es complaint, no es nada en contra de nadie, sino simplemente exponer lo que a nosotros nos está afectando. Gracias.
Okay, just to clarify, we don't give consent about anything and everything is explained to us. But like Bianca said, not everybody's able to attend the meetings at the same time because people work, they have different schedules. And so like Bianca said, it's not like we're complaining, but the thing is, it is affecting us because there's some matters that need to be taken care of right away. And so thank you.
Thanks, Annabelle, for this comment. And yes, I recognize that sometimes this letters, it's a short turnaround. Again, just the semantics on behalf of the members, and members are listed versus on the behalf of the entire committee. In this case, the entire committee, what I'm hearing from you guys would like to learn about these letters before they're coming out. Gustavo, anything else you would like to add and help me to wrap up this item?
Yes, definitely. And thank you, Glenn, for speaking up. In this conversation of consensus, there's been a lot of consensus of what we should do in a lot of priorities. So I hope that is on all the issues in 617 and not just some selective ones. So I appreciate that. And really just, closing this in as far as the blueprint is concerned, and I hope everyone has access to the blueprint. If not, I think at some point the district share that, CARB share that out as well. There's this in the Appendix C, in C-19, the proximity-based goals, right, which really looks at addressing like cumulative exposure burdens, right, and the strategies to reducing emissions. And clearly it says there, to reduce pollution disparities from emissions with strategies that are, that go well above and beyond, right, the implementing of exposure. And so I think, this would be a great process and place to bring up the notification of the pesticides. Unfortunately, bureaucracy is very hard to deal with and to work with, and government is very slow in this. So I'm really hoping that this is a conversation that we continue to have and really start honoring, right, this consensus process of the steering committees here and moving forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Gustavo. And on the consensus building process, on the personal note, consensus, when everyone participates and everyone let us know what you're thinking, so we know how much consensus we have in the room versus how much we don't have. So your participation, either verbal comments or via chat box, is always encouraged. Okay, anything else to add for the greater good of the group? We are actually making good progress here. Anything else you have a question or comment, any issues that haven't been resolved before we move on to the wrap up and the public comment? Okay, well, it doesn't happen here a lot, but we might end up a little earlier. And my colleague Kim is already sharing the slide with the public comments. Public members of the public, you can participate on Zoom. If you are here on Zoom, raise your blue hand, or if you're on the phone, press *9 and let us know your question or your comment. If you're on a Facebook, drop your questions or comments on the Facebook page at valleyair.org. Or if you have an opportunity to comment on the YouTube, which I don't know, some of you do, let us know. Heather, any comments on social media?
We do not have any. Thanks for checking, Hannah.
Okay, I do want to acknowledge a comment earlier in the chat from the member of the public, from Colby. Colby, thank you so much for your comment. We saw that, and that's noted. Thank you for sharing. And I cannot find this comment right now because the chat is quite long, but we saw that comment. Thank you for that. Okay, well, I would like to say thank you to all folks who participated and contributed to this meeting. Thank you for the updates. Thank you for all the wonderful questions. Gustavo, I feel like you did your wrap up, but I did want to give it to you like officially. Anything else, Gustavo, for the wrap up?
No, thank you for giving me the opportunity to do so.
It was an absolute pleasure sharing this space with you. And with that, we are recruiting for the next. We are encouraging for you to volunteer to be our next co-host. Do we have a volunteer for the next meeting? You can just unmute yourself and let us know, or drop your name in the chat.
So Hannah, I'll do it. Do I have to talk as much as Gustavo
No,
did?
I was gonna say before
he was
the
really
meeting,
good. That's a hard act to follow.
Before the meeting, we reach out and we ask, how would you like to share this space with us? We can give you as much time as you want, or we can share as little time as you want. Michelle, I take it as a yes, you're volunteering.
I will volunteer, yes.
Excellent. Gustavo, see, you didn't scare people away. I love it. Again, folks, the purpose of co-hosting and volunteering, so we can hear you a little bit more. It's so we can elevate your voices a little bit more, and you can be a little bit more involved in the process than just a regular participant. So we love our co-host and we love you to volunteer. Okay, so our next meeting is going to be in June on the 14th. It's going to be via Zoom. And with that, thank you so much for participating. We had a productive discussion. We had a lot of action items that the Air District, Department of Pesticide and Regulations, the school district, the City of Shafter will be following up on. And please keep an eye on the tracker and see what's happening in between meetings, and look for the email from the Air District about agenda setting dates. With that, thank you so much and good night, everyone.
Night, everyone.
Bye. Have a good night.